which is why Rykard eventually decides to become the God-devouring serpent, or be eaten by the God-devouring serpent, and invites you to devour the gods together. So yeah, that's Raya's story in a nutshell. Like I said, we're not going to do Raya's whole quest line because it's a little out of the way. But probably what I'll do is, like, depending on the bit, Rykard's weapon is actually a great faith pivot. Maybe I'll pivot to Blasphemous Blade. I mean, I wasn't really going for a strength faith build, but Blasphemous Blade, what is it? Yeah, Blasphemous Blade. I always forget which one is the weapon and which one is the weapon art. Taker's Flame is the art, which also melts Millennia. So, maybe we pivot to Blasphemous Blade when we get to Gelmir. In which case, if I do that pivot, I probably won't spend time farming the Cleanrout Knight's Scythe, even though it's a super fun weapon. Because ultimately, we're going to go Envoy's Longhorn. But for the sake of trying something that I haven't before, I might try cosplaying D for the DLC. Because I've never used his sword. And I've never used his armor set. Because again, like, in the base game, as you can see, like, Faith has its strong points when you're not fighting, like, progression locking bosses. But when you're fighting basically anything that stands in the way of you progressing the narrative, Faith is really crummy in the base game. I think there's something up here that I want. Nope. I don't know that I ever finished my story about Rune Arcs. So basically, oh, maybe that was the anecdote. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Maybe that was the anecdote that I never finished. Okay, well, we're just not getting that. Don't worry, we can rest at the side of Grace and reset that Scarab. I think that was the anecdote that I started and never finished. So when I got into Elden Ring and I just really, I struggled my way through my first time, like I think most people did. And then, I managed to beat the game. The first few times I beat the game, I wasn't able to beat. There were a few bosses I wasn't able to beat by myself. I wasn't able to beat Horalu by myself. I don't think I was able to beat Malekith by myself. And I wasn't able to beat, basically every boss from Malekith on, I wasn't able to do by myself. I had to summon other players to help me with those fights. And it was kind of discouraging because I was like, thinking ahead, what happens, when the servers shut down? Hi! What happens when the servers shut down if I'm still not good enough at this game to win by myself? Someday the game's not going to be online anymore, or someday people aren't going to be playing the game anymore. And then what am I going to do if I can't, finish the game by myself? I'll never be able to beat the game. So I was like, okay, I got to get good. I got to get good so that I'm able to beat the game by myself when that happens. So then, I practiced and I practiced and I got better at the game. And then I was able to beat Malekith by myself, but I couldn't beat the other bosses after Malekith by myself. And so I kept practicing. And then I was able to, take out Horalu by myself, but I couldn't take out Radagon by myself. And then I was able to beat Radagon by myself, and the Elden Beast is kind of a chump. So, that was whatever. Like, the Elden Beast, in my opinion, is just a very disappointing... Elden Beast and Radagon, which, maybe I'll get dragged like I did when I mentioned my feelings about Mesmer on Reddit, but... I feel like Elden Beast and Radagon were just not... They were rather anticlimactic boss fights to close the game on. There were a lot of bosses that I felt like were a lot more interesting. Like, even Horalu, I feel like, is a more interesting boss than Radagon. Horalu is probably my favorite base game boss fight, actually. So, I was finally able to beat Radagon and Elden Beast by myself, and I was very proud of myself for that accomplishment. And then I reached this point where the only boss I couldn't beat by myself was Melania. And when I say by myself, let me clarify and say all of this was before I ever did a run where I beat the game 100% no spirit summons, which I've done the game no spirit summons a few times. I don't like to do no spirit summons when I'm doing it for YouTube, because again, I like to create an environment where people don't have to feel bad about playing the way they want to play. Like I've said before, like the Souls community can be very elitist, and it can make you feel... So now we can summon Blackguard, which his name is Blackguard, but he's listed as Blackguard here, which is weird. The other thing, though, is this actually makes the fight harder, because for everything you summon, the boss has more HP, and I believe over 2... Okay. I believe over 2 they do more damage also. But anyways, I like to create an environment where people don't have to feel bad about how they play the game. There's no shame in using spirit summons, Ashes of War, whatever you want to do. Just have fun. That's all that really matters. So I like to use summons when I'm playing online to kind of reinforce that idea of, like, don't feel bad about however you play the game. However you play the game is however you play the game, as long as you're enjoying yourself and you're not... if it's one thing if you're playing something competitive and you're doing things that make it a bad experience for other people, but if you're just, playing to play, then it's whatever, right? Just have fun. So, yeah, this was not saying at the time that I was beating these bosses without spirit summons, but I was able to beat the game without summoning another human player to help me, and that felt really good. I felt very proud of that accomplishment. So then eventually I got to the point that I was able to beat the game without, without even... Let's switch for Bloodhound, I think. Oh, hey, I'm just walking into lava, and I'm also fat rolling now. Hold on. We're still fat rolling. Hold on. Okay, there we go. There we go. Was really hoping I'd be getting more poise damage on these. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I can beat the whole game on my own. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I don't need any other players to help me. And so that was part of why I never used rune arcs, which the way that you use a rune arc, you can either just pop it to get some health back in a pinch, but the intended use is that when you beat a remembrance boss, or when you beat a shard bearer, rather, you unlock their divine tower, and then you can attune yourself to their rune at their divine tower, and that in turn infers certain bonuses on you. And it's pretty widely accepted that Margit has, like, the best one, or no, Godric, I mean, has the best one. And I think some people like not Rykards, I think some people like, oh, no. Oh, I have the wrong potion up. That could have been a wipe right there. That's hilarious. I figured I wouldn't be able to get to his face, so I was trying to get that bleed proc. But my logic was, like, I didn't want to rely on, like, a resource that I would lose so easily. So, like, the moment you die, you lose the bonus inferred by the rune. I dodged too soon. Yeah, let me just lock in real quick. Okay. The moment you die, you lose the bonus inferred by the rune. And so my logic was like, I didn't want to rely on something that I had to keep, I had to get more of them, I had to keep buffing them. The moment I die, I lose the bonus. It just felt better to me to not have to rely on something that I had to keep re-upping every single time. And then I'd have to go and farm rune arcs, and rune arcs are very obnoxious to farm compared to Humanity and Dark Souls. So, okay. I don't think I even have both halves of the Dectus Medallion anyways, but... Well, I definitely don't because I'm into Caelid. But I can't progress any further in here because this takes me up to Altus. So I think the only thing I have left to do at this point is to go deal with the bosses in Raya Lucaria. Let me just double check my counter real quick and just mark all the ones that actually are boss fights. Okay, yeah. So for every boss that I can fight in Liurnia, like I said, some bosses are tied to progressing Randy's storyline, which takes me outside of Liurnia. So for every boss that I can do in Liurnia, I have done everything except for Red Wolf and Renala. So we're going to just knock those out. And that will be it for Liurnia. Do I have enough to level up? Let's get a little more endurance. And I'm probably going to respec when I beat Renala. Because this is probably the last time I'm going to use Sting. Do I want Lightning Spear for anything? I mean, I guess Lightning Spear would be pretty good against... Yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably the last time... Because when I go to Caelid, I probably will still actually go ahead and farm the Scythe. And I'll farm the Scythe off camera. How am I for... I have 2 gold pickled fowl feet. Okay. And I know where I want to use them. So once again, we can see St. Trina visited Raya Lucaria, and what's more, we can see St. Trina did a lot more than just walk up to the front door and wish everyone sweet dreams. We can find a Trina Lily actually in the courtyard right before the walk up to Renala. So St. Trina presumably went through this war-torn, ravaged land and tried to bring respite to even Renala herself. And that's one of those things where that's a little, that gets into headcanon. We don't know for sure. But we do know, if nothing else, that St. Trina went all the way up to the courtyard that led to Renala's study. So if nothing else, we know St. Trina tried to grant peaceful sleep to all the inhabitants from the entrance to the study. And so you could kind of headcanon that maybe St. Trina tried to give Renala some peace. And if you wanted to really get into headcanon speculation, you could even say maybe St. Trina tried to do what she could to restore Renala's broken mind as well. But that's obviously like completely headcanon at that point. There's nothing to support that statement. It's just, Renala's suffered so much, even more when you get to the DLC and learn more about her family. So it's just kind of a little, nice little headcanon to think that, St. Trina was trying her best to help her out. Okay. So now we are going to go deal, let me just, because again, I don't really use curved greatswords, so let me just practice with this a little bit before we go to the fight. I'm trying to talk to you. Get out of here. Yeah, no, Bloodhound's Fang is a great weapon that I just don't know how to use. One of these days I'll need to do like an all-game Bloodhound Fang run and just learn how to use this weapon. Red Wolf is such an interesting fight to me because it's like not a particularly hard fight, but Red Wolf hits so hard. So it's that thing where it's just like, Red Wolf just does so much damage that if you do like I did and just whiff every single one of your dodges, like Red Wolf just... Right, but then you also do so much damage to Red Wolf. Like, Red Wolf is such a glass cannon. Okay, let's Let's play like I haven't picked up a controller for the first time in my life. Guys, I swear I'm good at video games. Guys, hold on. I'm a gamer, I swear. I think part of the problem is like I don't know how other people with this much time in the game play, but I reached a point where I was just like seeing what crazy builds I could get online as quickly as I possibly could. And so as a result, I reached a point where like, because I was like, okay, I've been playing for literally over 1,000 hours. I just kind of want to skip to just seeing what crazy things I can do and seeing what late game stuff. So I reached a point where like I would get a crazy powerful build online early and all game that build, and that in turn makes you get very rusty at fighting a lot of bosses, a lot of the early game bosses. It makes you really good at fighting the late game bosses, but you get incredibly rusty fighting the early game bosses, because at that point you're not even really fighting the boss. You just walk in and curb stomp them and move on. And so I think like this is the first time that I've all gamed in a while, and it's the first time I've ever region locked. And so as a result, yeah, it definitely makes a difference in terms of my reflexes against some of these boss fights. I've got to relearn some of these skills. So the Radagon icon that I just got, that's what I was talking about, that like I really wanted that talisman, and it would not have violated the sequence break or the region lock for me to just beeline straight to here and get that earlier. But again, I kind of wanted to put on some little self-imposed challenges. And so what the Radagon icon does is it makes all spells cast faster, which makes it just essential for any magic using build. The time save on that is just amazing. I always see speedrunners go left and then just roll through the boulder, and I just don't. I mean, obviously since they do it, it saves time, I would assume. I don't really see how it saves that much time. So here's a little fun trick. You can actually duel this dude, or you can do this. I messed it up. But basically you can trick him into falling into this pit. But since I messed it up, I guess we'll just duel him. He's like disproportionately strong. I think Moongrum's a boy. Somebody got upset with me for calling Tree Sentinel a girl. They even all caps to me. Whoop. Oh, that was merciful. That's part of what makes Moongrum so hard, is that normally Moongrum will parry you and then just like one-shot you. Like, Moongrum just hits so hard. It's insane how hard Moongrum hits. But yeah, you can trick Moongrum into falling off. But Moongrum, and I'm curious if it says anything about just who are these knights preparing to fight? Okay, so I don't think anything tells you Moongrum's identity. We know the knight that protects Relana is a woman, and I believe she's referred to as being Moongrum's twin, but they could be fraternal twins. I have no idea. Just in case I throw, we're gonna send this back down. Because Renala is another one of the fights that, like, I don't think Renala is a very hard fight, but I will also just randomly throw when I fight Renala. So let's just dive in. We're gonna let this cutscene play because it's creepy, and also I remember that I said I was gonna let all the cutscenes play. I feel like this is also one of the only cutscenes that you get to actually see your face. Clearly. It's interesting that these girls have the same design flaws the Albinaurics. Their leg's not working. The Albinaurics are artificial life forms that I believe were made by the Academy.
Little Calva. I'll soon birth thee anew.
So that's the...
fresh and pure.
That's the egg of rebirth that Radagon left Renala. We don't really know why he left it with her. But if you look inside, you can see bits and pieces of the students inside of it. So all these girls are just continually being reborn by Renala. And they have incredibly short lifespans. And when they die, they have no recollection. Like when they're reborn, they have no recollection of their previous existence. So they don't know that they're just dying and being reborn over and over again. We're just going to back off. I probably could have got some more hits in, but this also gives us a little bit more time to find the student. And there's actually some interesting cut dialogue with him also. And the cut dialogue, in addition to the lullaby that they sing, is when they meet you, they're like very naive, and they think that you're just like, oh, we made a new friend is here. And then you start fighting them, and they're like, why is our new friend attacking us? And then they're like, oh, our new friend must not realize that rebirth is amazing. We just have to teach our new friend to accept Mother Renala's rebirthing, basically. So it's just, this whole encounter is a very tragic battle. Because it's like, nobody in this fight understands why they're doing what they're doing to you, right? Renala's mind is broken. The students' minds are broken. They don't know why they're even fighting you, or why you're even fighting them, you know, and this is very sad. But
my beloved,
there's a little bit of hope for Renala.
Have no fear. I will hold thee. Patience. Ye will be countless born, forever and ever. Upon my name is Rani the Witch. Mother's rich limber shall not be disturbed by thee. Foul trespasser. Send word far and wide. Of the last queen of Caria, Renala of the full moon.
So basically, Rani intervenes, and she summons up this illusion. She summons up this illusion of Renala in her prime, or at least as close to Rani's power can conjure Renala in her prime. So we never really get to see Renala's true power, but we get to see Rani's approximation of what Renala was like in her prime. And I have a lore video that was stupid. I have a lore video that I'd like to do on the Carian royal family because it's very interesting. I think Rani is a very complicated character, and I think so is Renala, right? Like the thing with Elden Ring is like nobody is completely good for the most part, you know. For the most part, everybody is a little bit evil. Or everyone's done something bad, you know. Even Nefeli, right? Like serving Gideon, even though Gideon told her, you know, he's this man of honor and he wants to create a world of equality. Like, she still is furthering his aims. And so even Nefeli, you know, is not completely pure. And so with Renala, see if I can do this while I fight. So with Renala's whole deal, most royal dynasties in the lands between are matriarchal. Or at least the ones that we learn about are matriarchal. Let's not get greedy and die. Let's get behind the flames real quick. Oh, you know what? I was gonna just lightning spear her because I'm in the water. I forgot about that. Well, here's your lightning spear. That would have been hilarious if that killed me. Okay, I want you guys to think about that fact. That her... I just wanted to see what would happen. It doesn't matter. I've already won the fight, so... I just wanted to see. I was like, will the flame reach all the way back there? I just, like, artificially inflated my death counter. I was curious how long it would take the dragon to disappear, because usually the summon disappears as soon as you beat Renala. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Neat. Oh, that's funny. Okay, anyways. So now you can talk to Renala. She's the only boss that you can't actually kill. She has plot armor. Alright, good talk. That holds Randy's wedding ring, which we'll talk more about that as we progress our questline. But it's worth considering, right? The fact that her last act was calling out to her daughter. So the thing is, most royal families, as far as we're aware of them in the lands between, are matriarchal. And yeah, she just keeps repeating that dialogue for a while. We're going to go ahead and actually just consume her remembrance because we're not playing an intelligence build. But Renala, would you mind? Do you mind? I'm trying to talk. So, as far as we understand in the lore, Renala spent kind of a disproportionate amount of time training and spending time with Ranni. Like Ranni, and we get a lot of implication around the idea that like Ranni probably was her favorite. Radon favored Godfrey and was like, that's a real warrior. He wanted to be like Godfrey. And who is Horlu. And Rykard despises the Golden Order, so he goes on to do his own thing, you know, and build up his order to oppose the Erd Tree. And so Ranni, even just by virtue of the fact that the royal families are matriarchal, you could infer that Ranni spent more time with Renala than her brothers would have, because she would have been getting trained up as a sorceress, and she would have been getting trained up to take her mother's place as queen someday. So we have that whole thing going on, right? And then Ranni, I think this whole interaction with Renala paints a little bit more of a flattering picture of Ranni, because Ranni, you know, she's very much the penultimate tsundere character, which is that person who's like, it's not like I like you or anything, or it's not like I asked you to help me or anything, even though they secretly, you know, want you around, and she falls in love with you over the course of her quest line. But Ranni is also the kind of person who will just do whatever she feels is necessary to achieve what she's after. She and Miquella have, I think, very similar temperaments, which might be why she and Miquella are implied to, in some capacity, be working with each other, right? When Ranni gives you the spirit calling bell, it was given to her by Miquella to give to whoever was Miquella's chosen champion, which Torrent chooses you. Torrent was Miquella's horse. You have a very specific role to play. Really everything you're doing is serving Miquella's plans, assuming you go and follow what feels like the canon route to the narrative, as much as there is a canon route. And so Miquella gives Ranni the spirit calling bell to give to his chosen. Saint Trina puts Kale to sleep when she gives you the bell, so that nobody's a witness to you being anointed as Miquella's champion of the festival. And so I think despite the fact that Ranni's actions caused the death of, in as much as you can believe that Miquella cared about anybody, caused the death of Miquella's like second most beloved relative. And so they have this, and maybe he doesn't know that Randy's responsible, who knows, but they have this connection that I think it's like, even though we're on opposite sides of the battlefield, and if you get what you want, I can't get what I want, at the same time, it's that idea of like, we're similar enough that we can do business together up to a point. And I think that's kind of your takeaway from those interactions. And so, in any case, Ranni stepping in to protect Renala, I think shows very clearly that despite the fact that Ranni is very mercenary, despite the fact that Ranni, like most people, kind of doesn't really seem to care like what you are doing, in so much as like you can take out her brothers and Ranni sheds no tears for Rykard or Radahn, right? Like she does nothing in how she carries herself in any capacity makes you think she cares about her brothers. And so she's a very complicated character, and some of it is left up to interpretation, but Ranni makes a point of protecting her mother, but she doesn't protect her brothers. Ranni makes a point of telling you she hates her father, and obviously she hates Marika for what she did to her mother. And so, like, Ranni has no problem letting you know how she feels about people. So the fact that Ranni never talks about her brothers and does not care that you take them out. Now, the other side of that you could interpret it, as I wax poetical about lore, you can probably tell I'm winding this video down since we're done with Liurnia now. The other way that you can interpret that is, in Ranni's mind, maybe it's a mercy kill, because Radahn has not had a will of his own for God knows how long, because Miquella's there's a cutscene you get when you finish off fighting Miquella, and that cutscene makes it very clear that Radahn has not had his own will for a long time, probably since even before his duel with Malenia, and before anybody in the comments goes crazy about that comment, that statement. When you get that cutscene where Miquella asks Radahn to promise to be his consort, the last thing you hear is the bell that signifies, that bell only chimes when Miquella takes over someone's mind. And so when Miquella wishes for Radahn to be his consort, you hear that bell chime, and that makes it clear that in some capacity Miquella's influencing Radahn even before you fight him as his chosen consort at the end of the DLC. Same thing for Mohg, which I had called Mohg not being in control of his own will before the DLC dropped, and I was very vindicated when I was right about that. And we'll probably never have an answer on this, but because there's very specific wording people that are being controlled by Miquella use, and it's my beloved Miquella, and that's a very specific phrase that's used by people that are under his control. It's what Mohg always refers to Miquella as, and the fact that Malenia also refers to Mohg, or refers to Miquella as my beloved Miquella, beloved or dearest, I want to say it's beloved. And then the fact that, and this is where, like I said before, in terms of theory crafting, for those of you that haven't clicked off already, that, like, I just came for the boss fight, it's not the theory crafting. What I said before about theory crafting, the idea that the theory should fit the evidence should not be forced to fit the theory. And so I can't definitively tell you that Miquella was controlling Malenia. What I can tell you is Miquella controlled literally everybody else, right? Like, I can't, if Miquella can't control you, he discards you, a la Saint Trina. And so what I can tell you is Miquella controlled Mohg from the beginning. What I can tell you is Miquella controlled Radahn from the beginning. What I can tell you is that Leda and all of her forces, Miquella's Band of the Hawk, Miquella controlled all of them. And so I can't tell you that I have definitive proof that Miquella also was controlling Malenia, but I can tell you Miquella controlled literally everybody else he used, Maybe Melania was just that grateful that Mikola was trying to find a cure, which he never would have been able to because she was being influenced by an eldritch god. So no science beyond the needle, which blocks the ability to be controlled by outer gods. Um, I don't know. I feel like we're not done with Melania's story. I feel like if they ever do an Elden Ring 2, we're going to see more of Melania because it's very pointed to me that you can take the perfected Mikola's needle and pierce the blossom that Melania's in to get that somber ancient dragon smithing stone. Um, it's a weird interaction, and I think if they don't do anything else with it, if nothing else, that should make it kind of that infers that the thing that would have prevented her from being under control was out of her body. And then when you look at the description of the needle, you also know that the alloy that it's made out of is an alloy that Mikola used to also create the bewitching branches that are used to control people's minds. And so there could be an element of control that's being used with the needle as well. And we also know from Millicent's quest line that being betrayed by someone you love dearly brings about your true transformation. And that's what he wants you to betray Millicent after you and Millicent become close, in the hopes that it will turn her into like kind of the ultimate warrior. And so I thought that we were going to have an encounter where Mikola betrays Melania and takes her out to force her to resurrect into her most powerful form. That didn't end up happening in the DLC, but if we get an Elden Ring sequel, I would not be surprised if we saw Melania's true form as a boss fight in there. But that's enough speculating for now. I've been recording for a few hours now, so I think I'm going to take a break and go spend some time with my family. So when we come back, we are going to move into Caelid next. And probably between here and there, like, don't be surprised if you see my stats jump a little bit, because between here and there, I might just go and farm the scythe that I want from the Clean Rot Knight. It takes a long time to farm that scythe, so I'm going to do that off camera. But that scythe is something that I'm kind of thinking about. I believe it procs bleed as well. So if I don't just stick with Bloodhound, I will probably pivot to that scythe. It just also feels a little bit like a waste to spend all the time farming that scythe and just use it for Caelid, and then turn around and as soon as I get to Lindell, farm the Envoy's Longhorn, and then use that for pretty much the rest of what I'm going to do. But I'll figure that out off camera. So anyways, as always, this is Eugene the author saying thank you guys so much for spending time with me. You could be anywhere, but you choose to watch this series, and I'm very grateful. So as always, you're awesome, be amazing, you already are. Take care, dreamers.